Hi Homeworthy, I'm Lucy. Welcome to my home in East London. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Lucy Hayes. I'm a playwright, screenwriter, director, and I also share my home on social media as a home content creator. So we are in East London and I live in a 1920s ex-council house. So it has all of these amazing features like parquet floors, external pipes. So you can see all of the pipes in my home. It doesn't have any skirting boards. It's also got curved skirting boards. So it has all of these original kind of 1920s features and really thick walls. So if you try and drill anything, it takes about half an hour. Welcome to the living room. This is actually at the back of the house, so one of the first rooms that you come to. One of the things that I love about this room most is these two massive south-facing windows. Really lucky to have a lot of natural light, and you've obviously come on a beautiful summer's day, which is really the unpaid actor in this in this setup. The room has an original fireplace here, which is also something else that I loved about the property, was that it had these kind of original cast iron fireplaces. And so I suppose having everything kind of centered around this was probably where I started in terms of kind of bringing pieces together. Another kind of key thing in designing and bringing the space together was this painting. I had never owned any original art before I bought this place, and so it was kind of on my bucket list that I would kind of like invest in a few really key pieces, and this is one of the pieces that I bought. I bought it at an auction in Spain and had it shipped over and didn't realise how expensive the custom fees were going to be, but we just paid those and moved on, and now I enjoy it every day. So I feel like the kind of colours in this kind of informed it. I really like the kind of honey yellows and the kind of pale pinks and the kind of mellowness of it. And so I guess, yeah, that kind of sense of warmth and softness has kind of informed the other choices in the room. I already had this sofa from a previous flat, and although it doesn't necessarily look like the sample, I thought it was going to be brown. I think they call it cinnamon. This was also something that kind of had to work in here, and so I sort of like the idea of kind of playing with a kind of spicy colour palette. And so it's this kind of red, and then for this other sofa I've gone for this kind of large pink chaise longue. I definitely didn't really want something that matched, but I kind of wanted something that complemented each other, and this is kind of how this baby pink number came into being. I like that it doesn't have a kind of like there doesn't have an arm on this way, because obviously it is quite a large sofa, and I kind of intentionally wanted it to feel really large so that there was like as many seating options as possible in obviously what is quite a small space actually. So I kind of like the idea that, you know, you kind of stand at the door and it kind of feels like you could like run and jump into this and kind of just get really cozy. So in this corner I have this IKEA shelving unit. It used to be here was like a big old boiler cupboard that like protruded out of the wall, which I think is interesting because often with kind of period properties you get the kind of stuck out section with the fireplace, and then you get these little alcoves on both sides, but that wasn't what we had here. And so when I was renovating, I had to build in a fake wall that hides some of that stuff that we couldn't get taken out. Lots of people, I always get comments on my TikTok and Instagram about people saying, oh, you should put inbuilt shelving in and that kind of thing. I would love that, but it's actually quite a shallow gap, so we're just going with this IKEA unit for now. One of my favourite things on here is actually this lemon. This is a lemon that my friend made for me with my first published play. So it's actually, the lemon is actually made up of the words of the script. So it's really special, and it's just amazing. I think someone handmade this. She got them to handmade it. I honestly don't know how she did it. But I just kind of love how unexpected it is, and that you just wouldn't know that that was what it was. But I know. And so she has a little spot on the books there. So this, I suppose, is what you would call a gallery wall. I googled lots of like how to build a gallery wall and, you know, kind of how to do it correctly, and then kind of just got completely overwhelmed by that, and then just like looked at what I had and was like, you know, what can work here? A lot of these were pieces that I kind of already owned and collected and kind of have quite like random histories. This is actually a tea towel from the Tate Modern, because I really love David Shrigley, but this particular print is limited edition and £5,000 if you buy it. So I got a little bit of styrofoam and a little bit of DIY, and now it lives there. This is a Japanese oil that I bought from a secondhand shop. I really like blue, but there's not really like a lot of blue in my home. I'm not really sure why. So I really like the kind of peacefulness of this, and the fact that you can almost see the texture of the trees. That kind of, you know, it's like, I love that about original art, is that you can kind of see the 3D-ness of it sometimes. Absolutely love that. And this is a actually originally a wine label by an artist that I really liked called Luke Edward Hall, and it was designed for a claret bottle, as it says on the poster. And back when I was kind of first furnishing my first flat, I didn't have any money. I was kind of looking at ways that I could get art that I liked for a kind of affordable price point. And so I just blew a couple of things up. And this is one of the things that I actually think turned out really well, considering that like on a wine bottle, it'd probably be like that big. This here is actually a collage that I did myself. One Christmas, got out the arts and crafts, and kind of put it together. And then my mum got very excited because she's an artist, and you'll see I've got a couple of pieces that she's done around the house, and she suddenly thought I was in my craft era, and then I turned out not to be. But this is a remnant of it, and I do really love collage. I love the unexpectedness of it, and so this lives as an homage to when I was arty one Christmas. And reminds me that maybe that could be me again one day. is a relatively kind of new addition, in the sense that I used to not have it styled, and I used to have this coffee table and then a kind of slightly bigger counterpoint, because I felt like, oh my God, I've got this space to fill, and, you know, let me kind of fill it with things. And because the sofa's quite wide as well, I kind of felt like I wanted, you know, everyone on the sofa to be able to have access to the table. But actually over Christmas, when we were trying to fit the Christmas tree in here, we took out that coffee table, and it kind of hasn't really come back. I think it's kind of much better to have the space around it. And I always like the idea of a clear coffee table, but I think that then it just kind of, as it's the centre point when you come into the room, I feel like if it's kind of clear, it often gets lots of bits of laptops or kind of coffee cups or kind of what other people are using through the day, and it kind of feels a bit disorganised, I suppose. So I put some things on it and entered my coffee styling era, and it now feels like a much more kind of calm and organised area. So we've got this shell trinket dish, which I actually bought at a French flea market. I always have this thing at flea markets where I look at something and I think, oh my God, that's going to be either really cheap or really expensive. And that's what I was doing with this. I was kind of holding it and thinking, oh, do I really like it? Before I kind of speak in my bad French and ask how expensive it is. And then the vendor told me it was €2. And I thought, that's coming home with me. I shouldn't really overthink that. So I was very happy when I found a place for it, because I feel like I often find things secondhand and I really love them, and then I just don't know where I'm going to put them, and I kind of just feel like I hope for the best with it, which is also true of this little gold trinket dish. I actually found this at a kind of secondhand warehouse in East London as part of a set. It was, they were all little trinket dishes that they were all the suits from a pack of cards, and it was the 4 of them, and I thought, oh, that was so lovely, but I just don't need the 4 of them. And I was with my mum, and my mum was saying, oh, but you love it, I'm sure you could find a home for it somewhere, and I thought, going to be restrained, I don't need it. And then a couple of months later, they were having a warehouse sale, and so I just went back, and they just had this one for sale, and so I thought, well, that's a sign, I suppose. And it kind of moves around. I know it's quite small, but at the minute it lives here in this little gap on my coffee table, and it feels very satisfying, I think, when you have a kind of secondhand piece that drifts around for a bit, and then you kind of find a place and you think, oh, that's where it was meant to be. I grew up in East London, and so I knew that if I was ever going to buy a home, it would also be in East London. So I started looking after the rent in my previous place got increased astronomically, and I didn't really know when was going to be the right time to start looking for my first flat, but I just kind of started to see what was out there, and so I was looking for a really long time, just looking on Rightmove, kind of looking all over East London, just kind of wherever would fit in my budget. And I actually looked for maybe 4 or 5 months, and I didn't go and see anywhere because I kind of couldn't really believe that I could possibly, own a home. So this was actually the first place that I came to see, and I was just so amazed by how many of the original features that it had, the fact that it had these big windows, the fact that it had original parquet flooring, the fact that it had even-sized rooms. I mean, I feel like in London you often get like one size room, which is like the little box room, and so the fact that it just had like well-proportioned rooms, and it had like a separate kitchen and a separate living room as well. It just kind of felt too good to be true, to be honest. I actually found it because the flat opposite was for sale, and my mum actually found that, and that was marketed by a very fancy estate agent, and I just loved the look of the block, so I just googled the name of the block, and lo and behold, this flat was also for sale, and it wasn't quite as well photographed, and it wasn't quite as a fancy of estate agent, so it was on at a much more reasonable price point. So I then did go and see the flat opposite as well, but they were the only 2 flats that I saw, and then I put an offer on this place, and with a bit of kind of back and forward, moved in about 6 months later. Now I would love to show you through the kitchen. Come with me. Welcome to the kitchen. So this is a north-facing kitchen, and so I felt like I wanted to be really kind of precise with what colours I used in here. I originally had this idea of this like olive kitchen, olive green, because I thought that was really classy. But when I put the samples on the wall, it just absolutely did not work. It just looked so dark with the natural light that comes through. But the kitchen really started, I think, with these tiles. These are Zellige tiles, so they're all handmade and they're all super uneven, which kind of creates this effect that means that they reflect the light really well. I just absolutely love the effect of them and how they bounce the light, and so I was like forensically looking on eBay, and I think these are actually maybe one of the first things that I bought for the house. Was I found an old job lot of Zellige tiles on eBay, and I kind of wanted a neutral colour, and these weren't quite the colour that I imagined, but they were on for such a good price that I just thought, I'm just going to get them. And so I got them, and then I was kind of happy to build everything else around that, which maybe is a risky way of designing, but led by excitement, I suppose. So I absolutely love these. when I showed them to my builder, he was absolutely so confused by the fact that they didn't need grout and that they were all uneven. And he thought that if he put them all on the wall, they were going to kind of go in all different directions. But he did a great job. And so, yeah, starting with this, I suppose then the next biggest question was kind of what colour to paint it. And I've ended up going for the colour that we have now that you can see, which I think they kind of describe as like a kind of reddy brown. It's kind of like a deep dusky pink. I think it's a really unusual colour, and it's quite dark in lots of ways, but for some reason I think just kind of really works with the light in here. I think being a creative, I was naturally swayed by it because it's called Ghost, the colour, and it's inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe's Ghost Ranch. And so I thought, well, you know, it's good enough for Georgia O'Keeffe, it's good enough for me. So I think that was my second decision. And then I always knew that I wanted oak worktops and to have units that were kind of that were solid wood. And so we found a company in Nottingham, a family company in Nottingham that kind of made the whole unit together. My mum very kindly helped kind of sketching out, you know, all of the different kind of bits that I'd need and all the different kind of sizes, and sent it off to them. And the choice of yellow surprised me. As I said, I originally wanted olive green, but when I was thinking of something that would kind of pair in, I just kept seeing these images on Instagram and Pinterest of yellow kitchens. And I just thought it looked really joyful. And I thought the kind of, you know, proximity to cream kind of feels like it can have a kind of almost neutral quality. And yeah, so I absolutely love my yellow units. I think it goes really well with the oak. We've got these open shelves up here. Originally, when I moved in, it was all like lots of units around here. And I suppose I always knew that I wanted open shelves just to kind of give a bit more space into quite a small kitchen. I feel like in other houses, you see open shelving and it's like beautifully styled with just like one vase and one plate, and because this is a small kitchen, they also have to be super practical. So we're just trying to, you know, make what we need to have out look as aesthetic as possible. So, you know, we have some references to design. You know, we've got some art up, I've got some jug and some my jug and some kind of dried things up there, and trying to go for some different levels and kind of get that kind of aesthetic shelf, you know, feel, but at the same time, like, it stores my mugs, and this is where all my tea is, and, you know, this is where my teapot is, and, you know, it's trying to be kind of aesthetic and functional at the same time. This is my Smeg. She is probably the most expensive thing that I bought. I know that they are a bit like sort of labelly, but my mum has had her Smeg since before I was born, and she always makes a joke saying, my Smeg's older than you. So I thought, if this Smeg lasts me 30 years, the cost per year will go down by the years. So yeah, I think it reminds me of the Smeg that we had when I was growing up. It feels really adult to get a proper fridge after flat sharing and kind of having one shelf of like a, you know, half unit. I remember kind of opening it for the first time and being like, all of these shelves, you know, what am I going to put in them? And then rapidly filling them and then going, oh, I don't have enough space. So I think you just kind of expand to the space that you have. She does gurgle sometimes, and she does make a lot of noises, but we do love her for it. And then the flooring is the, I suppose, final kind of design element with the tiles and the units and the colour. I can't really remember how I found these, but there used to be like a kind of lino on the floor, and when we pulled it up, It was one of the first things that we did and kind of exposed the concrete, but we didn't realize how sticky it was going to be. So you sort of would come in here, you know, to like make a cup of tea or something and kind of have your feet or your socks kind of sticking for ages. So then we put down all these plastic bags to kind of make it better. And then when we lifted the plastic bags up, they were all like breaking because of how sticky the glue was from the lino. So it was a very happy day when these tiles went in. I don't know if these tiles are a marble. I think they advertised them as a marble, but they weren't as expensive as a marble. But I really like the checkerboard. I really like the kind of way that the colour is quite tonal and it kind of matches in with the walls but kind of offers something else. I think one of my favourite things about this kitchen is I feel like each of the kind of main design elements has like its own personality. Like I think quite a lot of them are quite bold choices, but somehow they all kind of work together and kind of fit together to kind of create a cohesive feel. This was definitely, I would say, the room that I was most nervous about coming together, because I kind of put all of the little samples and all of the images together and I kind of thought, I think that's going to look good. But it kind of wasn't really until everything came in and came together that I kind of breathed out and thought, oh, okay, like it does actually work really well together. So yeah, that was a relief. This wall actually, when I moved in, came all the way out to the end of this bit here, mainly to kind of conceal this meter here. And so there was an enormously long hallway cupboard that went all the way along here, but kind of cut out quite a lot of the kitchen, like particularly I think with the kind of walkway round to the door and that kind of thing. It kind of felt like quite kind of cramped as soon as you came in. So one of the things that we did was we kind of knocked down all of that wall and built a kind of separate cupboard and unit just to house the meter. It's a bigger cupboard than I thought it would be. I think you'd be surprised to see how small the meter is, but you know, put some plants on it and kind of tried to make it as, and a fancy knob on the door here to kind of try and make it as kind of aesthetic as possible. And yeah, I think it just really opened up the space, and kind of small things like originally the kitchen units used to come out all the way to the wall as well, but when I was kind of putting the new kitchen in, we just kind of like reduced the space just by amount as well, just to kind of create a bit more of a walkthrough, so it felt like the kind of outside was much more accessible when you came in. I think like creating that kind of flow and that kind of openness was really important, and kind of shows you like just the small adjustments and things that you can do that kind of, you know, make a space feel much more inviting. This unit here, again, is another IKEA shelf. I don't know if it's a kind of temporary solution. I think a permanent solution, sorry. I think at one point I was kind of interested in having like another unit that matched, that kind of went there. But it's quite, again, like it's a kind of a strange shape. It's kind of strange dimension in some ways. But I knew I wanted to have somewhere to store all of my cookbooks. Absolutely love cooking. And I just love having cookbooks out as well, because I just feel like the designs are often so colourful. And so for the minute, we've just got them here. And I quite enjoy how this wine rack on the top here kind of gives the impression that it's like all cohesive, because the kind of sizes just about match up. I find it really hard to describe my design style, because I think I'm an aspiring minimalist, but I think if you look at my house, you wouldn't say it was minimalism. I had lived in a lot of rented places before this, and so I think the prospect of like having a whole space to fill was so unbelievably exciting, but also kind of really daunting. And I kind of looked at a lot of inspirational images, like looked at Pinterest, Instagram, a lot of things like that, to kind of come up with, you know, something that felt, you know, kind of really true to me and kind of felt like home. I think I would probably describe my style as like minimalism, maybe slightly mid-century. I have a lot of like vintage pieces that I absolutely love. I didn't realise I was so into colour, but one of the comments I often get about one of the comments I often get about my home is about the use of colour, and I definitely feel like I've gone for a lot of kind of like warm tones and things like that. So I think it's more perhaps a feeling that I'm trying to create. I'm trying to create a kind of home that feels like inviting and kind of inspiring. I work from home quite a lot, and so I kind of want a space that feels both relaxing and inspiring at the same time. So yeah, I also wanted a home that I guess felt timeless. I was aware that, you know, in a couple of years I might get really bored with everything, and you know, when you just spent all this money on decorating somewhere, like you kind of want to know that you're investing in pieces that you'll continue to enjoy, like, you know, much into the future. Let's go to the study. Welcome to my study/dining room. This room was definitely the hardest room to kind of bring together because I knew that I wanted a dining space, but I also work from home, so that I knew that I needed an office space. And so I kind of thought there's a world in which they can kind of work in the same space. But I feel like it's kind of been a journey over the last year and a half to kind of continue to make it a space that feels like it can kind of have those two quite like opposing functions work together. This room was a challenge as well because it was the storage room for the longest time. It was like the least essential room, like when I was renovating, and so it just was a storage room for all of the deliveries that were coming, for the builder's tools and all of that kind of thing. So by the time I actually kind of got it back, it took me a long time to kind of shed the kind of, you know, sight of boxes and kind of, you know, packages coming and putting it down there and that kind of thing. And so it's always been a little bit messy, but I think I'm just now, probably a year and a half later, getting it to a point where it feels like it is kind of cohesive. It's also quite a tricky room because even though it's got this lovely big south-facing window, it's quite a long room. And so actually it can be quite dark in here. And so finding the colour of the wall was really important. I got really obsessed with the idea of having a blue study because I read that blue was the colour of creativity, and I thought, you know, I need that. But I bought some blue, and my mum came over for Sunday lunch, and my boyfriend and my mum were looking at the paint that I'd got, and I think I'd painted like a big splodge on that, being like, that's the colour. And we were both all stood in the doorway looking at it, and they were both like, it's not the right colour. And I was like, I've just spent so much money on paint. It has to be the right colour. And they were like, you know, we don't think you're going to be happy with it. Like, obviously you live your life, but I think it needs a different colour. And I heard what they were saying because, you know, blue is a cool colour, and I think the light in here can be quite cool and quite shadowy. And so I kind of went back to the drawing board, and that's when I stumbled across this colour, which is a colour called Faded Terracotta by Farrow & Ball. It's a kind of orangey, peachy colour, and I think it's kind of really unusual because it can look really saturated in artificial light, but when there's a lot of sunshine, it can look really pale and kind of really washed out. And I kind of love colours that kind of contain that kind of flexibility and that kind of ability that kind of, you know, they transition across the day and you kind of get different feels at different times. So that's how we decided the color on the walls. And then I kind of feel like I describe this as like my colorful room. I feel like everything else has all the other rooms have like a little bit more of a muted palette, and then this room is like everything, all the colours. Like, I just wanted this room to feel really fun and really colourful, and kind of really vibrant. So this area here was, when you come right in, is the kind of dining area. And this table is actually a family heirloom. This is the table that I had as a child, and my parents were obviously feeling very fancy one day because they got it shipped over from Ireland, and it's a cherry oak table. It's funny because I remember it being much bigger than it actually is. As a kid, I remember kind of like all the adults sitting around the table and kind of feeling like I was like a million miles away from people, but actually having it, it's actually it's a lovely size, but it's actually quite small. And so, so I have this table which kind of has all these marks on it that, you know, I kind of don't know where they came from, but I suppose was either kind of me as a child or my parents or kind of one of our family friends. And I'm happy that it's kind of got this second life in my home now. And these chairs that surround it, I think they actually go quite well with the table, and I like how kind of, you know, ergonomic they fit. But these are one of the first pieces of furniture I ever bought. I used to live in Bristol, which is where I did my MA, and I got an unfurnished flat, and I didn't realise how expensive furniture was. So I went around with my mum again to all the secondhand shops and found these chairs, and they are Urkel chairs, which is a kind of very famous mid-century designer. And I really loved them. I really loved the colour. I really loved the shape of them. But it took me quite a lot of convincing to buy them, because I thought, I can't spend that much money on some chairs. And then I got a kind of stern phone call from my dad being like, do you love them? Will they fit with the table? Will they last you forever? And I was going, yeah. Then he was going, buy the chairs. So we went back the next day, bought the chairs, and I didn't even really think about how they would go with the table, but they go really well. And so I suppose, again, that's a kind of sign of, you know, it meant to be. And so they've now been with me. This is their third flat that they've been in. It's really nice that they kind of get their rightful place in this moment. I feel like getting a rug was like a really good moment. I used to not have a rug here, and kind of going back to what I was saying about like creating zones in the flat, I think the rug, it's actually my boyfriend who suggested it, like just helps to like really center the space and kind of give it its like own identity in kind of contrast to everything else. This is a USM unit, which I was really keen to have in my flat. I've been a real admirer of USM Halle for a really long time, and I thought, there must be a kind of home for a USM sideboard in my home. I kind of call this like the bar cart, although my flatmate calls it Welcome to the Slytherin. I'll say that again. My flatmate calls it Welcome to the Slytherin Common Room, because obviously it's quite a bright green. I actually found this unit, or I should say my mum found this unit, again, it's thrifted, from a secondhand office furniture dealer. I think because USM Halle, although now it's like obviously super trendy, is like actually super functional and practical pieces. There was a seller in East London that was kind of selling them secondhand for about a third of the original price. And I never initially wanted green. I think, as you can maybe pick up on, the kind of colours for this room were kind of this like peachy orange and blue, colour of creativity. But they had a green, and it was a great price, and they had a Black Friday sale, and I thought, I can make that work. So it is very vibrant, but I do absolutely love it. I just feel sophisticated when I look at it. And this throw that's above it, I feel kind of unexpectedly works really well. This is from my previous flat. It used to live behind my bed, and it used to cover a wall that was absolutely covered in mold. So I bought this kind of big wall hanging to cover that, and instantly knew that when I was moving here that it would live in here, because I felt like it actually kind of contains the colours of the room, these two colours. But I feel like it kind of exhibited all the kind of qualities of fun that I wanted it to. It's obviously a great size for the unit as well, and I kind of love the contrast of like the texture on the wall. I really like putting, you know, art on the wall, but also kind of, you know, plates or different kind of things. And I think that the kind of texture of this is really good to kind of offset the stainless steel. I absolutely love chrome and stainless steel, but I think that it can often run the risk of feeling a little cold. And so I just like the way that kind of having these two next to each other just warms that up. And this is the alcohol of said bar cart. And And these are the toucans of said bark art. These are actually my boyfriend's. I get questions about these on my social media all the time about where I got these from, and I have to say I don't know. But they're Guinness. This is a Guinness toucan. This is the jug and the little salt and pepper shakers. And I'm Irish, so obviously Guinness is welcome. And also green is also very welcome in this house. This is my bookshelf. I always was kind of cramming all the books that I had in previous flats into super small spaces, and so I was so excited to get as big a shelves as these. These are just scaffold boards, and then these kind of like tracking shelves. I think it's probably the kind of cheapest shelving that you can get, but I painted it blue to get that little burst of creativity in. I just kind of like the unexpectedness of the two colours together. And then this is all of my books. So we've tried to do a little bit of shelf styling. I feel like it's still a work in progress, and also because of the amount of books as well. Obviously, like, they've just kind of got to work. I feel like I always look at other people's shelves and I think that looks really good, and then I kind of look at my own shelves and I think, what's it not giving? But we just keep tweaking. So down here I have all of my plays all together, and then everything else is kind of like a mix of fiction and non-fiction and poetry with kind of little objects interspersed through. This is also a vase from the same flea market that my shell dish is from. Again, this was a moment where I thought, that looks kind of, really valuable. And then the dealer told me it was 50 cents. So I thought, yeah, that's coming home with me. So yeah, I love that. And this is one of the pieces that doesn't have a permanent home. I kind of move it around and I kind of think, oh, I want something to put there. And I think, because it's such a good size. So the minute it's here, these are actually pink peppercorns. I had these in a kind of Christmas wreath, and then I extracted them and kept them. But yeah, who knew? Pink peppercorns. Can you see this fellow in the top corner? I don't actually know who this is. This is a puppet that was given to my dad, which he thinks looks like our cousin, or his cousin. And when I was kind of filling the flat and looking for little things to put in it, my dad said, do you want the puppet of Kevin? That's the name of my dad's cousin. And I said no, because I thought it was slightly cursed. I said, no, I don't have anywhere to put it, And he went, all right. And then when my dad came over just to kind of check on how the renovation progress was going, I kind of turned my back to him for a second, and the next thing I knew, he was going, he can live up there. And he'd kind of pulled a chair and he'd got this huge puppet out of his bag, and he'd kind of proudly put him in the top corner up there. And so I've not dared touch him since, because I think, well, if that's where he lives, that's where he lives. So, he's a reminder that, you can make incredibly intentional design choices, but sometimes design choices just happen to you, and that's part of something feeling like a home as well. This windowsill is also blue. It's got some lovely sunlight on the minute, but this actually wasn't meant to be blue. I asked the decorator that I had to paint the bookshelves blue and to also paint the door blue, but I think maybe I said woodwork as I was kind of going out to work, and I came back and this this window shelf was blue, which felt incredibly random, and I just live with it. I don't know if I like it or I don't like it, but I suppose it fits in with with some of the other blue that we've got going on. But again, another design choice that just kind of happens and you embrace. This here is my little desk area. This is actually a tiny, tiny desk, and actually is originally a console table. In my previous flat, I had the kind of smallest gap between where my bed used to be and the wall, and so I kind of was on eBay looking for a desk that might fit in that area, and I found this, and I think it's actually supposed to be a console table, and it was about £45 on eBay. And my mum and I went to, I think it was somewhere beginning with M. It was just outside of London somewhere, and so we made a day trip, and it was still kind of COVID time. So I remember my mum made like a flask of tea and some sandwiches, and we went and picked it up, and yeah, it's absolutely tiny. It's almost impractical for purpose, but I just really like the colour of it. The shape of it feels kind of quite classic. It's obviously got this storage with it here. And I guess the memory of kind of, you know, me saying to my mum, oh, I've bought this table, you know, an hour outside of London, do you want to come and, you know, get it with me? And her going, oh, okay, then I'll make tea and sandwiches. It's kind of such a fond memory that it's kind of nice when, you know, when I'm working here and I kind of know that that's where it's come from. I've matched here the books with the colours on the print. I don't know if you can see that, but I was very impressed with myself for doing that. Just a little bit of cohesiveness here. This little vase, I've got a few of these. I picked them up at a ceramic fair at Stepney City Farm, which is super close to me. They're all kind of seconds. And so, you know, they've got quite an uneven rim here, but I kind of really like the imperfection of it. And this is just an offcut of this mimosa, actually. This is the baby. This is the mummy, this is the baby. But yeah, I don't know, it just feels really joyful. I think it's really nice when you're working just to have things. It feels a bit silly as well. I feel like it's just quite nice to have things that feel a bit kind of silly and joyful when you're, you know, working and, you know, doing something that feels really serious. Yeah, and I think, final thing I'll say in this room, I think having these big plants is also something that really helped to kind of delineate the space between this kind of study area and this dining area. I originally just got one and I thought that was going to be enough, but I feel like something about having two kind of just helps to make it feel a bit more intentional, and to kind of make it feel like a bit of an area. This cactus I actually got from B&Q. I went into B&Q because everyone was posting about the Black Friday sales, and classically I then went in and bought something that wasn't in the Black Friday sale. Yeah, I kind of like the contrast of having something that's kind of quite architectural and spiky, and then having something that's like super soft. And I have to cut this this one all the time because it just absolutely loves to spread out, and kind of sometimes you'll be working and you'll kind of feel like a kind of frond kind of come and sort of plonk itself on the desk. So it feels like it kind of has a mind of its own. Yeah, my interest in interiors and home is obviously very different to what I do. I think the fact that I work in the creative industry has always meant that having a sense of home, whether that's to work in or to come back to, has always been really important to me. I always feel like it's almost like a physical thing of like how you feel in a space. And I feel like I've always felt kind of quite, you know, sensitive to that. My mum actually has inspired a lot of my love of like secondhand stuff. She used to be a secondhand dealer, and so when I was kind of, you know, looking for pieces, it was just after kind of COVID, and my mum was shielding, and so going to lots of antique fairs and spending time outside together, you know, in like a field in like the cold, was like a way that we could hang out. And so it kind of grew from that, was this kind of, you know, shared love and this kind of thing that we could do together, and then kind of getting pieces that felt, you know, unique and, you know, were full of character. So it feels like like homes are, I guess, and interiors are so joyful to me because it's not something that I do for work. It's not something that I have trained in. It's just, you know, it's just something that feels like it can, you know, improve your everyday. I think that's kind of why I started sharing my home on social media, was this kind of, this love of taking care of your space and putting pride into your space and kind of, you know, really valuing where you live. Now let's head to the bedroom. Welcome to the bedroom. So this is my bedroom. Would you believe it? I think this is also probably a room that I didn't really have much of a kind of design plan for. I think I was so used to living in shared flats where your bedroom is kind of your main expression of personality that you kind of can't really put like a design scheme onto that. So it was quite overwhelming to have the prospect of like something that, you know, I could actually design. That being said, I have been obsessed with the colour Setting Plaster by Farrow & Ball for the longest time. And although I'm like not a massive fan of pink, this is obviously pink walls, which my childhood self would probably be mortified by. But what I really like about this colour is that it's supposed to reflect the colour of kind of dried plaster when you put that on the walls before you paint it. And I think there's something really soothing about that because it's quite an earthy colour. It feels kind of quite natural. It feels quite kind of cocooning. And so I think that that kind of felt like such a kind of beautiful basis for a bedroom. And so I very much started with this. This art piece here was an unexpected purchase. I was only expecting to buy one piece of art for my home, which was the piece in the living room that you saw. But I saw this piece and I absolutely loved it. And so I was kind of looking at my budget and trying to work out, like, you know, how I could make it work. And I was like, oh, should I just get it? Should I just get it? And I bought it, and it felt really decadent and really impulsive. But I feel like it's kind of the main focal point in the room, and I actually feel like the colours in this room are kind of maybe slightly random, but actually all of them can be found in this painting, which feels really reassuring to me because, you know, there's a lot going on in terms of like greens and blues and pinks and all of that kind of thing. But the fact that, you know, they kind of exist in one universe here, I think then kind of really makes them like cohesive in the space when they might not feel so otherwise. I was also very excited to get these, I don't know what you call them, little night lights by the side of the bed. These felt very grown up and very sophisticated when I bought these. As you can see the cables, which is because everything in this flat is surface mounted. So if I want any wall lights or anything like that, they all have to have external cables. They can't be kind of wired up into the walls, but we love that. You learn to love it. So it was obviously very nerve-wracking to try and get them on both sides to match up and to be even, because this is something that me and my boyfriend did together, and I can still see the kind of pencil marks where we were like trying to, you know, use our maths GCSEs and really like make sure they were really even. I actually don't know if they are, but I also feel like with things like this you have to be like, as long as it looks okay to the naked eye, it's okay. And it's quite funny because like reaching up to get the switch is like you have to be at a certain angle to do it, and you can do it. That was important because things like this, you know, they have to be at a level where you can actually turn them on if you're lying down in bed. Over here in this corner, just going to straighten B-roll. I'm just going to straighten this painting. Over here in this corner, you can see that we've got another original fireplace. I know that I'm probably committing a major sin by putting my wardrobe here and kind of almost covering it up. But we used to have the wardrobe at the end of the bed, and the gap between the end of the bed and the wardrobe was so narrow. And if the wardrobe doors were open, you couldn't get past. And this area was supposed to be a little bit more like, you know, I think I had a bench here and a chairs, and it's supposed to be a bit more relaxing, but actually meant that the kind of main pieces of furniture were all cramped up in one space of the room. And so one day my boyfriend and I were like, what if we just move it here? Yes, it will block the fireplace, but maybe we can live with that. And we did that, and it actually made the room feel so much bigger and so much more peaceful, that unfortunately we have had to sacrifice a little bit of this here, but you can still like, you know, there's still air, you can still see it. I feel like the feng shui gods, you know, they might be angry, but hopefully they'll understand. This painting here is from a Swedish auction site, which is one of my guilty pastimes because everything looks really affordable and cheap until you look at the shipping fees. But you know, if you balance it all out, so this I think was like, I bought this for like £20 or something like that, and was kind of part of my, I guess, like, you know, interest over the past couple of years in kind of trying to buy original pieces and unique pieces of art. And with this one again, I just like the textures of it. I just like the colours of it. I quite like art that kind of creates a sense of calm, I suppose, particularly in the bedroom. And that's what I got from here. This lamp actually is a scissor lamp and is also from the same Swedish she swings, is also from the same Swedish auction site. These are kind of, you know, pieces that I think have become quite trendy in the last couple of years. So you can see them on lots of kind of secondhand websites in the UK for, you know, have been upsold by quite a lot. And so finding this one on auction was really great because, you know, it was from I think it was from Denmark. And buying it direct from Denmark turned out to be kind of a lot cheaper than kind of getting it from someone that had already done that shipping. So we got it rewired, which felt very grown up. I've never sort of bought a lamp and had it rewired before. I didn't do it myself. I got an electrician to do it. Yeah, it's always a bit nerve-wracking, I think, when you do something like that you're going to buy the right parts. I think I didn't buy the right switch, but the the electrician managed to make it work. And then this chair here is, I think, one of the first things that I bought when I knew that I was going to buy the flat. I saw it from a secondhand seller on Instagram, and I just absolutely fell in love with the kind of shape of the arms. Again, we've kind of got the chrome here and the corduroy and the kind of deep blue, and so I bought it, I think, about 6 months before I moved in here, and then didn't have anywhere to put it because it couldn't go in the flat that I was in currently. So I think my dad actually took it in the end, and kind of we managed to put it in some storage. So it was a good day when this came out, but it's moved around. It used to be in that room, it used to be in the kind of study room, but has kind of found a home here for the moment, which is lovely, and has had this recent addition of this very tiny cushion, which I actually bought in Rye when I went back there a few weeks ago for my boyfriend's birthday. It's actually quite a narrow chair. I don't think you'd think it to look at it, but if you put a regular sized cushion in, it kind of takes over the chair. So when I saw this very tiny cushion, I thought, I know where that would be perfect for. And then next to it is this stool, which again is a vintage stool. I got this at a flea market in London, and it's quite Art Deco. I think I have a few pieces in my flat which are like unintentionally quite Art Deco, but I absolutely just love the kind of frill, the fringing here, and the kind of chrome squiggly details. This was definitely something that when I bought it, like, I didn't know where it was going to live, and I kind of tried it in a few different places, and it kind of floated for a while, and then one day I thought, oh, I know, why don't I just kind of try it next to this chair here, because I think often it's about creating like a bit of an environment. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, I think you can have a chair somewhere, but it doesn't feel like necessarily an invitation to sit down unless you've got somewhere to put a cup of tea or a glass of water or something. And so I think that actually putting more stuff somewhere might be slightly counterintuitive, but like actually creates kind of a more kind of relaxing sense. So that was my rationale anyway, behind kind of moving this here. And then moving round, I think actually, talking through everything, most pieces in this room are secondhand. This is also secondhand. This is actually from the same flea market as this little stool here, so it was a successful day. This is a G-plan unit, so again, like a mid-century influence. And then above it, I have this little shelf that I found, that I thrifted, that we use to display all of our kind of perfumes on, and kind of try to make a kind of something aesthetic out of, you know, a need to store something somewhere. When I moved in, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to have a clear chest of drawers, because I feel like when you're renting, your chest of drawers is like one of your only kind of display places, or one of your only kind of surfaces in your bedroom. So like all of the previous places that I've had, the kind of, you know, chest of drawers has been kind of cluttered with kind of makeup or mirrors or kind of display things and that kind of thing. So it took a while, but I'm very happy to get to a place now where this is mostly clear, and actually getting this shelf was something that kind of really helped in that, because I think with fragrances you kind of want them to be accessible, but having them just kind of elevated off of here kind of, I think, just helps to make them feel like separate, and also helps to keep this clear. These are two of my favourite art pieces that I have here. This one here is a black and white photo of Nina Simone, and it's actually just a page from a book. I just really love Nina Simone. I think she's just an absolutely incredible artist. I love her music. I love her kind of grit and the way that she kind of didn't really care. She just kind of did her own thing. And when I saw this picture, I just kind of loved the spacing of it, and I kind of thought, what if I got that framed? And so I went to this framers in Dalston called We Are Facility, who I'd seen on Instagram did like really creative things with framing, and I said, you know, it's a bit weird, but I'd quite like to frame a page from this book. And they actually suggested keeping this kind of negative state. They actually suggested keeping this kind of negative space as part of the framing, and I think that was actually such an inspired decision. So she's up there as a kind of reminder for me every day. And then this piece is a new edition, which is also framed by the same framers, and is a sketch from an artist that I'd admired. One of my favourite things to do is to kind of follow the artists that I like on Instagram, and then when they have a studio sale, buy then. So this was just a little sketch that I had for ages actually. I probably had this for almost a year before I took it to the framers. And then again, they kind of suggested the unexpectedness of this kind of chocolate brown mount and this kind of chrome square frame, which I absolutely loved. And nothing's really changed much in this since I kind of got this shelf and Nina up, but actually this feels like the kind of only thing that earns its place amongst that. So it's just kind of propped up because it's something that I might like to move around. And I quite like having pieces of art like that, you know, kind of don't necessarily have to be on the wall, but have this kind of, you know, portable quality to them as well. So you can kind of move them around and kind of change your space as you go along. And then finally, we have this little trinket dish, which I bought in New York when I was there. I thought it was like the most beautiful and sweet thing I'd ever seen. And it's actually quite an impractical trinket dish, I think, because I never want to put anything on it because I think it just looks so gorgeous as they are. It's got little fortune cookies on it, and then the kind of little memos here, and it says life will give you lemons on it. But yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. It's made by Pot Lady. I presume she's based in the States, so I can't buy anything else from her, but yeah, I absolutely love it. And it's always nice to buy things when you're away, I think, because then you kind of remember that holiday and you remember that kind of experience when you look at it back at home. So that lives on there to remind me of my time in New York. I think my favourite space is probably my hallway. I have an absolutely tiny hallway, and I really didn't think that I would be able to do anything with it. Like, you know, when I had my Google Doc with all my different, you know, rooms and like, you know, little ideas for them, I did not have a hallway one. It was just a kind of, you know, space. And I think I kind of realised that the hallway is so important because it's the first thing that you see when you come into the home. And I read somewhere that your kind of sense of comfortableness in a space is kind of decided within 10 seconds about how it makes you feel. And obviously you know, in this house, the hallway is the first thing that you noticed. And so I kind of then thought, okay, well, what can I do with this? And I wouldn't really say I had kind of any big plans with it or any kind of vision. It kind of just happened piece by piece. And I think it just, the way it catches the light because of the kind of all the doors that are coming off it is kind of really special. When I kind of wake up in the morning, open my bedroom door, kind of come out, and there's kind of slithers of lights coming through from all of the different rooms. I think it just makes the home kind of feel really inviting, and just like a kind of has created a bit of like a heart to the space that I didn't even really realise I could have. So this is my hallway. As I said, it's my unintentional favourite space in the house. As you can see, it's quite small, but I've still managed to kind of get, you know, some art in, and like this table was an absolute revelation. I didn't think that I was going to have space to have a kind of console table or anything like that, and then realising that I could get something custom. I got this made on Etsy that's kind of so narrow so it doesn't kind of take out any more space, but just kind of provides a surface, and I think something for your eye to draw onto when you kind of enter the space. Fun fact that because this is actually flush against the wall, and as I said, I have curved skirting boards, when I put this up and I first bought it and I put it flat on the floor, it actually stuck out at an angle because of the way that the flooring is. So I've actually had to nail it to the wall. And actually, if you got kind of any kind of leveler or anything, you would see that it's actually wonky where it's actually been glued to the wall. But you can't tell, it does the job. These here, and then above it here I have a mirror. I have this wavy golden mirror, which I actually absolutely love. This was a sample that I saw at a secondhand furniture. It was a kind of showroom of secondhand designers, and fun fact is that I actually didn't see it on the day because the person that was selling it was upstairs, but I was kind of following them all on Instagram afterwards, and she kind of posted some pictures of some of the things she had for sale on the day, and I saw this mirror and I thought, I can't believe I didn't see that. So I kind of messaged her and I said, is this still available? Can I buy it? And very kindly she shipped it to me and I bought it. So that was a kind of happy accident. And I've recently kind of acquired these wall sconces that have gone next to it. I've loved wall sconces for ages because I just feel like they're so decadent, and having candles in them and all of that kind of thing, like it just feels so opulent, which is obviously lovely to kind of have in a hallway. I actually found these again through a secondhand seller, and I thought, oh, I really like those. Maybe I could find something similar for a bit less. And so I took an image and I took a screenshot and I Google image searched it, and I actually found the exact same ones on eBay for about 1/10 of the price. So Google image search is your friend. And so I very happily added them to my basket. And when they arrived, they actually, in the box with the wall sconces, and the seller had also sent a teddy bear. And I was very confused because I didn't know if that was a mistake. So I messaged her and I said, thank you for the wall sconces. You know, should I send the teddy bear back to you, or you know, was that a mistake? And she just replied and said, the teddy bear, that was to keep the sconces warm. Enjoy. And then I think she said happy Valentine's Day, because I think it was Valentine's Day, which is not the answer that I was expecting. Yeah, so I also acquired a teddy bear at the same time. I think probably the most distinctive thing about my hallway is the fact that all of the doors are different colours, and that took quite a long time before I did that, and quite a lot of kind of reassuring myself that if I hated it, I could just repaint them white again. I basically saw a Pinterest image of doors being painted different colours, and I just really loved how kind of unexpected and vibrant it was. I was originally, you know, just going all white and trying to keep it kind of feel quite like minimal and kind of peaceful, so that then each room could kind of have its own personality. But I just kept thinking, what if I painted all the doors different colours? Wouldn't that be fun? So I started with the kitchen because I don't actually have a door here. There wasn't a door when I arrived, and I thought about putting one in, but I thought it's quite nice that the kitchen is just so accessible, and you know, it doesn't take up any additional space. So I felt like I could start with this because this was like the safest option, and so I went for this kind of soft red colour, and I was quite nervous about this as well because, as I mentioned when I was in the kitchen, I feel like all of the elements do something quite different design-wise. So I thought, I'm not really sure about kind of what adding in another colour is going to do to that. But I then learned about unexpected red theory, which is the idea that if you have a pop of red anywhere, it kind of works and it adds something. So I thought, you know, let's test this theory. And so, yeah, I painted this red. And I didn't like it for a really long time. I kind of did it and I thought, oh, I'm not sure. And then it kind of eventually grew on me. And then once that worked, that kind of made the other doors feel a bit white in comparison. And so the kind of idea of coming up with all of the different colours kind of started to take hold. And I decided, I couldn't decide for a really long time what colours to go for, because I wanted it to feel like fun, but I didn't want it to feel overwhelming. I wanted it to feel bright, but I didn't want it to feel overstimulating. I wanted it to feel calm, but I didn't want it to feel boring. And so actually this came about because a paint company got in contact with me through my TikTok, and they said, we're launching this new range of paints and would you like to try any? And I looked at the colours, and I think the fact that they were part of a range kind of instantly felt like they were almost kind of designed to go together, or they were designed to kind of counterpoint against each other. So I said, well, I'd love you to send me the samples. And then they sent me the samples, and I kind of was putting different samples up on different doors and kind of moving them around. And there was only 6 colours in the range, and obviously I've got 5 doors, so I was gonna use most of them if I did commit to it. And I think, yeah, credit to them that the kind of colours worked so well together, and I was able to kind of, you know, find colours that kind of sat well next to each other and complemented, but also kind of counterpointed. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. I think it's brought so much life to the space. It's kind of unexpected. I think it feels really inviting. And I haven't got bored of it either, which I thought I really was going to. And now when I look at the photos of all of the doors being white, I think, you know, it just looks so dull in comparison. So yeah, after being, you know, quite reticent and thinking that I wanted a really minimal hallway, we've now ended up with every single door being a different colour. I should probably shout out this piece because my mum did this. I've had this piece for a really long time. I've tried to take it to kind of as many flats as I've lived in. My mum has always loved art, but I think it was when I was growing up that she decided that she was going to do her art A-level, and so this was one of the pieces that she did for her art A-level, and it kind of lived in our home in a cupboard for a really long time when I was growing up, and she kind of had it, and she'd got it framed as part of the course and all of that kind of stuff, but she never really put it up anywhere. And I think it was when I was in my final year of university, I kind of saw it and I said to her, can I take it? And she went, oh, are you sure you want that? And I said, yeah, I do, of course I do. And she's been with me ever since. So yeah, that makes me very happy that I have a little original piece of work that she did in my home as well. This is my key holder, which is probably one of my favourite things in the entire flat. I found this at a second-hand fair, and I was looking at it for a long time, mostly because I didn't know what it was. And I was kind of looking at it and I kind of saw that it had this kind of dipped tray and it said please on it, and it had these kind of holes here, and I was kind of looking at it for ages. And then I said to the seller, do you know what this was? And they said they think it was either a kind of change collection at a church or a kind of ashtray at a theatre. And obviously being within the world of theatre, that was kind of really exciting to me. And so I said to my mum, oh, can I use this as a kind of key holder, do you think? And she was saying, oh yeah, because it's got the holes there and that kind of thing. So yeah, I bought it and it's super unique. And I kind of love that it's so practical, but has like a kind of unexpected history. It's kind of, you look at it, you don't really know what it was used for. This lettering here was initially really chipped, but I have a friend who's a prop maker, and I don't even know how she got the colour match right, but she basically she re-lettered it for me. So kind of, and she put brass, she polished it up and everything like that to kind of restore it to its glory. So yeah, it's great. I think it's great to have a place to put your keys as soon as you come in, because that means that, you don't lose them. I think it's really important to keep a tidy home, to have like homes for things, to know exactly where something's going to go. And obviously this is a tiny bit of wall, and it just fits perfectly. So there's a kind of happy accident that it fits so perfectly there. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I think home to me is a feeling. I think it's a feeling that you just hope that not only yourself but other people experience coming in. I think it's creating a space where it feels like you can relax, that you want to be, that you want to spend time, that can feel inspiring, that can feel calming. I think we often don't realise how much our environment can affect us until we kind of get into a space that either challenges us or makes us relax. And so I think that home to me is definitely cultivating that space, however it is, that kind of just makes you come in the door and kind of just breathe out.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.